Welcome to Moonlit Muses. Today we are going over patience rehab and how not to lose it. I'm your host, Molly, joined with my co-host, Eva, on today's.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you today. I mean, we're not really seeing you. Great to have you on our Moonlit episode today. Molly, I don't see you.
I don't see me either. I don't see one of us. Hold on.
Um, let's see. We're starting off the day with the usual bits of technical issues, but we are going to get that tackled very, very quickly.
Um,
Let's see.
I have no idea where we went. We were there when I had the before I put that image up. Oh,
Oh, there
there we go.
you are.
Let's find you. Okay.
Here I am. Great. Oh, no.
Hello.
There we are. Okay.
Okay, cool. We are live. I'm just making sure I went over to the YouTube to make sure. Last week, I was feeling that pre-shot on Mercury. But yeah, today we're going to talk about Aries and Mars as it goes through different houses and how we express or bottle up our Mars energy.
Yes, and since we have today the transiting moon in Aries, so we wanted to tie it in with the energy of the day. We wanted to focus more on speaking about patience, something that is very challenging for many Aries to do, or where we all have Aries in our chart. Nobody's excluded, even if we don't have placements necessarily in Aries. We all have that somewhere in our chart. So if let's say you're not an Aries, but you're a very impulsive or explosive person, you're like, I don't understand this. Like, how can I be that way? And then we can go through the chart and very easily navigate where this is playing out. But overall, I think one of the most difficult things for us as people is to learn to be patient. Especially with the culture nowadays, everybody wants everything yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a bad thing. We can all want it, but are we still able to be patient enough, knowing that we're gonna get it? We just can't really have control over the time and moment. And yeah, so today we wanted to kind of speak about where this plays out and to have more awareness so we don't burn bridges for no reason, or we don't get into conflicts and fights that are not worth it. Because I don't think it's a bad thing to have a conflict or a fight, but at least when it's true for us and when it's meaningful, instead of coming from this place of, yeah, like a little child demanding. So technically, the Aries energy can have this connotation. I want this, I want it now, but because I don't know how to go ahead and get it myself, I kind of expect the whole world to do it for me.
Mm.
And a lot of been holding on to a lot of these expectations, and eventually can breed a lot of disappointments. So we kind of put ourselves in that, excuse for my French, shithole. I'm feeling disappointed, and then he's bad and she's bad, and the whole world is, this bad, miserable place. Meanwhile, we need to understand that it's something that we want or we need. So we need to also be proactive participants in life and not just sit around and expect that it's just going to, come to us and somebody's going to do it for us.
Mm.
And I think we're going to see that a lot, especially when we have next year Saturn in Aries. It's going to be, whoops, getting a little.
Yes. Yeah.
That, we want to change something, we want to see something that plays out in our life, then the question would always come back to, well, who am I and what can I do about it? And have the courage and boldness to go after what you want, um, because ultimately that's is how we also empower ourselves. If we just have everything handed on a silver platter, we wouldn't really know what we're truly capable of. So we do need like those even personal challenges and test the waters and see what we are capable of, even if we can't even imagine it or believe it in this moment. Yeah.
Mm.
Do you want to add something, Molly?
Yeah, like I was thinking about Mars because I woke up today like wanting to start shit with a lot of people, as I was telling you before we went live. Not start shit, but just like have my voice like express myself and stand up for myself. And usually when we're frustrated, which would be perhaps the lower octave, right, of Mars or Aries energy, it's usually like it's really stemming from what we care about and like what we want to protect. And so I feel like when we're consciously working with our Aries energy, with our Mars energy, it's like standing up for what we want to defend and having that like precision to take action in a way that feels like very empowered. And I feel like oftentimes that's why I think people will sometimes people I'm convinced sometimes people get pissed off or angry like just in passing when they're not really connected to that like inner Mars or like the direction how to channel that. And so then they might like project or just like take it out in an unnecessarily like aggressive or triggered way, when really it's like just like cultivating that Mars into what you like, your like embodiment, really like what you're here to kind of stand for and protect, like our will, right? So
Yeah, well, technically, Mars, yes, is a symbol of our ego, which is not a bad thing. But when we speak about that, it's not, and you mentioned something really important, Molly, like the need to express yourself, but sometimes that's not just about reacting impulsively or defending constantly, or kind of like proving, well, you need to respect, my voice, you need to respect my direction or what I want, and hear me out and so on. And sometimes the most impact we have of really making that change is to also walk away
mhm.
or kind of put an end, like make a decision for ourselves, not wait to receive that clarity from the outside making a difference or changing their actions, but us changing our own actions and be like, I'm done, I'm
Yeah,
out.
like where do we choose to let our energy get kind of like siphoned or distracted? Because yeah, if like a person, a situation, a pattern's presenting where you're like constantly feeling frustrated or needing to like, defend or use that Mars in that way, then yeah, it can be like a real distraction from like more just productive manifestation of like where to channel your will and your drive. Because yeah, ultimately we can't control other people. So it's like if you're getting triggered, just like removing, within reason. With family and stuff, obviously we have to stay usually in touch with them. But like if
Oh
it's
no, I've removed myself from there. So
okay. Well, if everyone's different about that. I was also thinking about like one of the like very like most common things everyone is consuming, as I'm drinking herbal coffee, by the way, but coffee, right? People are on all these like stimulants and like, or when they're in a car, I'm just thinking of like when people get really impatient, usually it's like because they're feeling like that pressure to like rush and to do and to go, when it's really like, oh my God, just take a breath. Like, is it really the end of the world? Like, is it really worth getting so worked up over in this moment? Like, because this one person's like making you wait 5 extra minutes or something.
oh yeah, I mean, depends on the situation. I honestly feel like in general, when we feel angry, frustrated and then angry, like really angry, sometimes we don't even allow ourselves to feel that, because it's something that we just feel like we're bad to feel angry or to feel impulsive or to feel like we just want to scream and shout and just break everything apart. But at the same time, it's really important to allow ourselves to sit with that anger because it's always a signal for change. I feel like I want to bring this up because right now we have all of these transits in Scorpio that everybody I know at some level or in different way in their lives is feeling like the need for something to change. But if you're just going to suppress that anger and feel like, well, it's okay, I'll just, be a good girl or a good boy, I'll wait it out, you're then storing that anger inside of you and start starting to eat you alive. So that's why I said even with family, it's like things came up for me, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm sorry, like I'm done. So instead of me sitting there allowing treatment or things that don't feel good to me, suppressing that anger because apparently it's something that it hasn't happened just once. And instead of expecting that they change because everybody's who they are and you make your choices, you vocalize it once, twice, three times. If nobody hears you, then you make a change and you say like I'm done, and that's it. Everybody moves on, but it's important to move on with that sense of peace. But we cannot have peace unless we have made the decision within ourselves first. Like, this is what's true for me, this is what works for me. I don't expect anyone to do it differently, but I'm going to be the one who's going to be my own advocate for what is right and wrong for me, and make decisions from that place. And last week, actually funny, I was teaching a yoga class. I don't know if you've heard this Molly before. I've asked everybody who was in the group if you've ever heard of the saying, when you feel angry or impatient, maybe it's like an old Eastern European thing, but like always count to 10. Have you heard
I,
of that before?
no, but I think it just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so so when you feel that frustration or anger or that like very heightened intense emotion, instead of reacting to it right away, just give yourself 10 seconds so the mind can cool off and then decide what you're going to say, what are you going to do, and so on. So actually I then made up everybody to inhale for 4 and exhale for 6 to kind of give yourself that 10-second time frame before making a decision on what needs to do. So this can be like one of the practical tools we can give to listeners as we
Okay.
go and speak about like where we have Aries in the chart to keep that in mind. So let's say if it's in the fifth house about like love, when you meet somebody you want to date them, instead of just be like, oh hi, you want to go on a date with me tomorrow at like 10 a.m. count to 10 and just feel how the energy is.
I like that because you're basically allowing yourself to kind of witness what's happening in your body or where you're feeling it or what
Yeah.
emotions are coming up before simply reacting. Like so often when I get defensive, like later I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish I just sometimes the more powerful thing is like usually, a lot of the times when we're reacting, the person or the situation was like trying to get a reaction out of us. So sometimes the more calm you can be in just like asserting yourself, standing up for yourself, that's actually more powerful than kind of stooping to the like reactivity level, which is kind of like usually if you're in like a conflict with someone, that's kind of what they're hoping for. They're like hoping you will lose your cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, should we talk about like Aries through the houses?
Yeah, yeah, we can do that. I mean, I think, let me start with, if it's in the first house, like
Mhm.
in general, you will be somebody who is very assertive in life. And you will be seen like that by others, but you yourself, if you want something, that you're going to be very proactive, and that's very similar to also having like Mars and Aries. Uh, you want something, you go, you go and you get it done. But at the same time, you can also be very demanding that everybody listens to you and follows you.
I have a brother with this placement.
Yeah, and how is he?
Mars in Aries in the first house.
Yeah, you cannot say no to that kind of person.
No, his wife, my sister-in-law, calls him a bull goose. She's like, "You're such a bull goose," and he's like a bully in the family, but he's usually pretty funny, but he's always asserting himself and his ego and taking up space and not really maybe thinking all the time before he might
Oh
act.
no.
He'll offend people in the family a lot.
And that's why it's important to do things with awareness, because yes, you can get to that end where you can be a bully and somebody who is super uh, almost assertive but in an aggressive way, which is
Exactly.
not very always attractive depending on the situation. But if it's used this aggression for protectiveness, like I'm going to protect the people who are less capable of asserting themselves, or let's say my children or my wife, somebody who is um, not so good at standing up for themselves, because here we have a very strong ego, then this can play out in a beautiful way. That's why I don't think like ego is a bad thing, but it's sort of like being patient and understanding here. That will be the lesson that, maybe others don't have like this natural sense of like, I'm ready to get in a challenge or get in a conflict and like stand up for myself and fight, because maybe that recharges you.
It
But
does. It's like he like genuinely likes conflict. I feel
yeah, it's just,
like it like feeds him on some level.
but use that energy in a constructive way.
Exactly. Be like an activist. You'd be
Exactly, for
great.
protection, like
Yeah.
a pioneer.
So
Yeah,
vulnerable. Yeah. Exactly.
exactly. Yeah. So
That's
this
the
will be,
healthy manifestation is like that you can assert your identity so easily and people will, kind of listen to you because you command a presence.
but you can also turn a lot of people off, just
Mhm.
because this is like very dominating ego. But at the same time, if it's so dominating that it makes other people feel bad about themselves, like in the case of bullying, eventually you're alienating even people who will be there to follow you or to support you.
Mhm. And there can be like a lack of awareness on your effect on people because it is just like an innate maybe part of your aura, part of just like how you show up energetically that you could, ruffle feathers, yeah, without really trying to.
Yeah, and I know you don't like it. Maybe you don't want to hear no. I mean, I have Mars in Aries, but it's in a different house position. Uh, but a no doesn't always mean like a no to your no, a no to what you want to create. Meaning that, let's say you want, I don't know, to buy a property in somewhere, like that's your goal, and maybe you've reached out to an agency and they told you, well, no, like this is not being sold. That doesn't mean like you cannot get property in that area. Maybe you need to go find a different agency. uh, so just a no doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It's an Aries, so Aries is somebody who has the courage to continue finding a way. So it's more about like that should make you refocus your energy in finding a different solution instead of getting angry and lashing out just because somebody told you no.
I like that. How
Yeah.
about Aries? Aries in the second house.
This is somebody who needs to learn to be patient in valuing the self and also how you earn money, meaning that maybe that you have something very valuable to give to the world, but it may take a little bit time until people also recognize it, and maybe you also need the time to put it out there, put it into as a product, or you yourself selling your expertise. um, but just because, let's say, you don't receive the feedback from the world that, your service is valuable or what you have created is valuable, you still need to be patient and believe in that intrinsic value, that it's not about what you do that makes you valuable, but it's who you are. Even if you don't have all of the information and tools at the moment, just knowing that you're a person who is resourceful and eventually is finds the right way or tool. So this has to do a lot with being patient. And for example, if somebody, you work somewhere and you don't feel valued and respected, to not getting to these conflicts of like, no, I deserve to earn more money, I deserve to be paid this or that. You just tell them, then, I leave, and
Mm.
I know what my value is. I don't have to like prove myself. So I'm gonna go and get a different job.
So it's like kind of like self-resourcing one's one's value, and also just, I would say, like savoring what already is, like before spending on something that you think is gonna, enhance you, or striving to prove yourself or prove your value in the material sense, like just actually enjoying what you already have and like what you're already capable of, like really learning like what it is to be like self-resourced, not having to like prove so much in, externally, external manifestations of your worth or value.
Yeah, I think this is more about learning that you don't have to prove anyone anything, but at the same time, you cannot just expect someone to value.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's very similar if you have like Venus retrograde in Aries. It's really learning for you to be your own advocate and value your ideas, your talents, your own resources, and finding outlets that where you feel like you are in a position of empowering others. So naturally, they respect and value what you have to give and offer. But it's not like I'm sitting here, look at me, I have something to prove. It's like, yep, this is what I do. You like it? Great, come and join me. You don't like it? Goodbye.
It becomes like a natural embodiment rather than like this like efforting, I would say.
Yeah, it's like knowing. It's like getting connected. Yes, to this very deep internal knowing. When you know something to be true, opinions, knows don't really have such an impact on you. But when you're not clear and really connected to that internal value, then everybody can just sway you in different directions and make you feel less than. Yeah. What do you think about third house, Molly?
I would say here it's really important to listen and maybe sense the tone behind something if you're getting a text message or an email, like, but to just like pause before expressing, before responding. It's similar. I have Mars in my third house. I don't have Aries there, but it's kind of a similar, where kind of letting silence do more speaking sometimes than
I like
having to use your words as weapons. Because I feel like with Aries here, it's like, especially depending on what planets are in that house, the words can be wielded as weapons, which again, it's like, how do you use that weapon? It could be very like piercing and insightful, and getting to like the truth of something with Aries in the third. But you could also say things that you're like, oh, maybe I should have waited, where you could have maybe just felt into what you were feeling before responding, kind of like what you said, count to 10.
I always think of these people, especially not so much Mars, but when I think of Aries in the third house, those people that go to a store, something wrong happens, and they're like, "Where's the manager? I need to speak to your manager, like right now." What this is a everything is a problem. They always have a complaint to make about something, and they always like create like this huge drama in the store.
Mhm.
This is usually the people we see with Aries in the third house when it speaks about like some kind of something they don't like. They're very vocal to the point of being creating all of this mm, yeah, drama, chaos, very exaggerated.
I say mental warfare too.
Yeah, yeah, warfare, exactly, warfare.
Communicative warfare, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And
So really
just
like in learning how to patiently exactly count to 10 before you speak, before you raise your voice. I mean,
and practice listening before
what?
maybe like I would say just like listening too before responding.
I mean, it'll be difficult for them. That's definitely difficult. Like the hardest thing for anywhere we have Aries is to be patient. But maybe things don't have to always escalate to that
Mm.
extent where everybody's screaming and yelling. Um, so yeah, you're right. Yes, maybe taking a moment to listen to would be important.
Counterintuitively, I was talking to you about this, like we're taken more seriously often when our words when we don't use as many words and then the words have more meaning behind them. You know, the people that are like, I think of like a lot of like like strong masculine energy where it's like men a few words but you just don't want to cross them and they don't have to say much, but it's because that silence does a lot of the intimidation factor. You know, like sometimes less is more, truly, whereas if you're spitting out and spewing and all these words out and word vomiting and attacking verbally, people just don't, people kind of tune you out, you know. So knowing that sometimes it's more effective to pause and say less and let the silence speak.
Yeah, very true. Okay, well, we have like 30 something minutes left. Let's go. And so, yeah, like fourth house, where would you say like here would be the lesson about learning to be patient?
Oh, just being patient with your own sensitivity, your own emotions. This could be a
Yeah.
reactive placement because the fourth house is a very tender aspect of our inner world. And so there could be like a very sensitive kind of person with this placement, where maybe there was a lot of chaos or martial energy in the home. And so they could take things really to heart.
Yeah, definitely. Emotionally impulsive. So here would definitely be about learning how to nurture your own emotions.
Mhm.
Usually, a lot of the times, yeah, there was not the most emotionally nurturing relationship with the mom. And you kind of see this, let's say the child is crying, and the mother, instead of trying to sit with the child and ask, like, how are you feeling? And, understand how to comfort them or show them a different way to process the situation, she can just yell at them, well, stop crying. Or
Mm.
like, boy, you're a boy, you cannot cry. So then it almost like creates like this, yeah, like anger and a lot of unresolved emotions that they just quickly end up bursting out and coming out. So really learning to be patient with your own experience and how to navigate with that. Instead of reacting like you're happy, you can just be like, oh yes, amazing. You're sad, you suddenly want to start crying. Like you're angry, you suddenly want to punch. It's how do we express these emotions? It's not in a so volatile way.
Mhm. Yeah, like learning to self-regulate.
Yeah. I mean, actually, now with again the Saturn in Aries, that's going to come back from February. That's going to be a huge lesson for these people. Mm, actually, somebody that I knew since we had it in Aries over the summer, it was transiting already in the fourth house, and I did tell them probably you need to go see your mom. A lot of the times you can lose a parent, your mom can pass away, or the person who you kind of expected that emotional nurturing from. We as children we always expect it from the mom. Sometimes she's just not there, not capable to do it. So usually, like when we lose that person, we can't even expect it from her anymore because in reality she's not even there. So now we really are met with this difficult lesson of like, okay, how do I tend to my own emotional needs? Because anyhow, my mom, I was expecting for her like all of these years. Now she's gone, so apparently she's not going to be able to attend to them for sure. And so I need to like grow up and mature. And it's not an easy. It's easy to say. It definitely doesn't feel like an easy thing to do or experience.
Mm.
Yeah. And fifth house, it's kind of similar. I would say when we have transit difficult fourth, fifth house. Fifth house is about like love and creativity and relationship with children. If before you were very impatient and demanding, now it definitely comes about learning. And usually when we have Saturn transits, it's always about learning to be patient, steady, something that doesn't come right away. It looks for discipline. Um, so even if it's not something natural to you, now with this Saturn transit, it's gonna wipe all that impatience out. um, for all of us, just in different areas in our lives. But yeah, fifth house would be about that. Let's say if you were just dating around, meeting 20 people a week, now it's gonna be like, hold on, like why 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 are you doing that? Like, well, what's the purpose? Are you just scared of being intimate with someone? That's where you're kind of going on like a free spree.
Yeah,
Uh,
presence in the channeling of that, like I guess, creative energy.
yeah, or let's say, yeah, you've been dating 20 people a week, and suddenly, let's say you're a guy, and suddenly one of the girls gets pregnant, and you're like, oh shoot.
Exactly.
Like now you start to like rethink all of these uh, fun, free decisions you've made, and that could completely, you can imagine, turn around your life
Mhm.
and make you more responsible. And now imagine you do want to bring this child into the world. So it's just a lot of layers to it, but definitely in the fifth house is going to be about like love, dating. Let's say you're somebody who is an artist, wants your idea to go big and viral. Um, and here would be, yes, rethinking how you're structuring your whole creativity, your whole idea. Maybe it needs to be done differently. It's not gonna happen. You could, sometimes the going viral is, you can be lucky about it. Some people say it's a strategy. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but definitely, if you're lucky, you don't have much influence on it. You just happen to go viral, or if it's some kind of a strategy, then there is a lot of steps to, I guess, overthink how you present it, how does it look, what idea works best, how people respond to it differently. And if you're somebody who wants to go viral tomorrow, but this is going to take now another 6 to 12 months, then you're gonna have to learn patience with that.
Yeah. You like starting to view your creativity as a process of communion, not something that's against,
Yeah, yeah,
they really are bringing a level of presence with that. Like, I mean, because I think of the fifth house as that like sexual, sacral energy.
it's
So
very what?
it's like the sacral, sexual energy, whether it's being in connection with someone or making your art, just
I
like
don't hear you very well, Molly.
you can't hear.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm closer. Yeah, it's that sacral sexual energy. So bringing in more a level of deeper presence in how you engage with that.
Yeah. And responsibility, yeah.
Less impulsivity. I mean,
Yeah.
but it could be beautiful having Mars there. You might be like that person that has that big break of like a flash, or you get like flashes of insight and creativity. So there's a lot of beautiful ways that can express as well.
True. Very passionate.
Totally.
Yeah. What would you say about sixth house Aries? Where would the person need to be more patient?
With their health, with their day-to-day routines, maybe slowing down to actually have those routines to nourish the body. They could be like very rushing, depending on what sign it's in. It could be a person that very much like rushes through the kind of day-to-day things that need to get done, where they can neglect maybe their health on some level. And just by slowing down and like as you're doing your routine, just bringing more like presence, more embodiment into your day-to-day routine tasks, letting like those things become kind of a meditation rather than something you feel like you have to just like rush through and check off.
Yeah. And
And
also
go
go ahead. I was gonna say yes. Also with coworkers,
oh
in
yeah,
the
show like
workplace, at the workplace, you can be very impatient. That everybody. It's you're working on a team. It's kind of going by your own direction. So maybe it's better to be, let's say, your own boss
mm-hmm.
and kind of create the autonomy there versus kind of getting in conflicts with the whole team just because you're not in that position. You're just constantly feeling irritated at everybody else. And yeah, also be careful with the head. A lot of times, like with you have Aries in the sixth house, you can very easily injure your head.
I was also thinking now that you've mentioned it, Aries in the third could be kind of accident prone just because the third house does rule like that um, commuting and transportation and kind of stuff like that. So
Oh, you mean with driving? Yeah,
yeah.
into driving accident. Yeah, so it gotta be. But sixth house is definitely a set, can get. And okay, give you an example. My dad, he has Aries in the sixth house. When it's about, let's say, we're moving and you need to bring furniture from one place to another, paint walls, all of that spiel. It's a process. It takes time. That's why people don't necessarily like to move. But when you're dealing with, moving heavy pieces or construction, something that still you do need some level of patience with that because you're using tools. There is all of these nails here and there, it's very easily to get injured. So
Mhm.
I've noticed this a lot of times because he doesn't have the patience. Again, it's into the day to day life, or it's something from the day to day, yeah, from the day to day life thing that you need to do. He doesn't have the patience for it. He already wants to be inside. He wants to feel comfortable, and he rushes with like moving. Let's say, I remember last time my parents were moving out. He had to ask his friends to help him with bringing the couch upstairs, but it was a heavy couch. He didn't feel like doing that. He was rushing. Then he ended up hitting his head in the ceiling. I mean, how many, the amount of times my dad hit his head when it came down to like day to day things that has to do with construction because he doesn't have the patience with it. It's unbelievable.
Also, I would say with Aries here, it's like don't be afraid to outsource a task to someone else. Like just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. Or
Yes,
I
true,
think there could
true.
be like an urgency to be like, well, I'll just take care of this. Maybe it's like, well, maybe hire the plumber, maybe hire the handyman to do it.
Exactly.
They might do it a little more thoroughly and have a bit more expertise.
Exactly. If you're not patient with it, exactly, outsources and getting yourself like hurt. So
Yeah,
that's
or it like, or you're trying to fix it and then you make the problem worse. Like you try to DIY it and then it's like you could have just hired a professional.
yeah. So if you have Aries in the sixth house, go to taskrabbit.com. Handy.
Aries in the seventh. This is
Yeah.
obviously
The
this is
most patient
because
ones in relationships.
yeah, I noticed these people a lot of the time they'll be pulled. They'll feel this internal pull between wanting to have a partnership and then want to do their own thing, because on some level, if Aries is showing up in this house, it's the house of where we connect and reciprocity and cooperation. So to have Aries there, it's hard for you to do that naturally. You kind of want to just be sovereign and do your own thing and have a lot of autonomy in connections. And so learning about compromising and setting healthy boundaries too, not over giving or withholding too much in connections.
Or have a partner who's also very independent.
Totally.
So even if there is like this push pull dynamic, I want it my way, no, but I want it my way. It kind of creates like that passion and it's sexy. But if you have a partner who is like hyper dependent on you and waiting on you, you just might get frustrated. And like you said, Molly, then you want to just be like, you know what, I'd rather be single.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like to take care of anyone.
Yeah, I've seen some interesting charts where it's like Aries in the seventh, Libra rising. So it's like on the one hand, and maybe their node. I feel like I've seen it where like the North Node might have been in the seventh house, but it's like Aries is there. So it's like they're here to learn about how to be in relationships. So it is important, part of their soul's evolutionary path to like lean into that. But then there's like within that, they still are here to learn how to like be very autonomous within, maybe setting boundaries in connections and doing it their way.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
The eighth house, Aries in the eighth. Merging.
I'm merging. I want it now.
Shadow.
I want it now. My way or the highway. You don't want me? Oh, I'll show you. I'm gonna find like five more right now that want me.
Interesting. You're
No,
releasing
but
control. I would say releasing control is a big one for this. These are people that want control.
yes, can control, but definitely even when we speak about sexual, like somebody that kind of can how can I say this? This is not exactly the most passionate people. This is people that like quickies,
Hmm.
like impulsive.
Not the most sensual, let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. Because I would say
They can be
quick,
passionate.
but quickly. Like I don't have time. Like I want it now. Let's do it quickly.
The experience.
Yeah, I want it now. Do it quickly. Move on. So on. So definitely learning how to be a little bit more. Um, Maybe for a woman, I don't know if it's going to be because it's going to be that bad. But can you imagine a guy, and then let's say women need more time, and they need more foreplay to get aroused. So can you imagine somebody who's like, okay, I have 5 minutes, like move now, I want it, and then what? She's like left there hanging.
Or
So
she, or she has Mars in her 8th house or something, or in her 5th house.
yeah. So I could imagine that a woman who has like Mars in the eighth house in Aries, then that makes her very sexually active, and she would know like what she finds as yeah, she's ready to be active, intimately active, like and if some guys like that. If the woman, let's say, goes up to them and tells them like, "Now, let's do a quickie,"
Yeah.
but a lot of times we see this the other way around, where the guy wants like this short sexual acts, and then the woman just needs more time. And then for I would say for guys, really learning how to be more of a lover and more sensual and more patient with that. Yeah, it becomes more challenging. I mean, Mars and Aries 8th house guys, I'll tell them like sign up for like a tantra course where you have to breathe a lot and really learn how to be present in the body.
I think Mars in the 8th could be quite like strong libido because it's like Mars in its own house. But if it's Aries there and maybe Mars isn't in it, that's kind of a different energy. But
Mhm.
I feel like it would give a pretty robust, having Mars there, depending on the sign, give a pretty robust libido or like stamina, because it's its own house, it's a Scorpio house.
Definitely.
The other thing I was thinking about was like grudges and intensity, and I feel like people maybe like being able to like sit with the discomfort and maybe deeper like relational dynamics, or being able to like go through that kind of alchemical transformation and not rush that, like be able to sit with uncomfortable feelings, because maybe Mars there could want to kind of like just glide over going too deep. Like let's just keep the energy going and without fully seeing something to like a resolution, because the 8th house is kind of like a crisis house is how I think of it too. They could be good crisis workers, someone with Mars there.
Yeah, I mean, you can, for example, hold on to if somebody did something wrong in your opinion to you. You can hold on to that anger or resentment. Um, Again, not wanting to really sit with it and move past it and let it go. You kind of hold it in too much because that's usually like Scorpio, like you're grasping onto something. But the lesson here is not only being patient, but learning how to let it go,
Okay.
not being so obsessed and controlled by it.
Yeah, we're needing like the upper hand,
Hmm.
because sometimes it's like we don't resolve stuff because we're like, no, I want to be in control and I want to be right. Whereas it's like sometimes just about like, okay, let's like come to a resolution. The more Venusian kind of harmonizing. What
Yeah, but
about?
at the end of the day, like when we usually feel resentful towards someone, kind of think bad about them, we're hurting ourselves more than we're hurting them
Mhm.
because we're living with that experience. So it's really important for us to learn how to let it go and find that comfortable spot within us. Yeah. Ninth house. Here, I would say a person needs to learn the most to be patient about your own happiness. You might always see like these people complain, like, I'm not happy. I want something else. Is that happiness? It's a choice. It doesn't mean that something needs to you need to have to be happy, or you need to have a certain goal or achievement in order for you to be happy. But can you learn to be happy with in this moment and not attach it to a goal or meaning outside of you?
Yeah, not trying to be like, what's my purpose without ever just, sitting with yourself, always seeking, maybe being kind of
Mm.
impatient in that restless search for meaning.
Yeah,
Or maybe it's like you don't have to go out and force it. You can just let the path kind of reveal itself.
but it starts exactly from here and now. Yeah. And then 10th house would be about our goals in life, ambitions, self respect. Um, Actually, what I noticed with people that have 10th house in Aries, because it's connected to the fourth house, once these people have a relationship, they're much better able to respect and assert themselves into the world. But when they don't have a relationship, they're lost. And it's really interesting. They always think, oh, I don't need anyone. But the moment you're actually in a relationship, you're much more, you found that emotional foundation, you're much more able to respect, yeah, yourself, and then feel that emotional grounding that you can actively go and pursue your goals and ambitions in life.
Do you think that I'm trying to think of what that would have to do with? Like, does it have to do with,
Almost imagine it this way: somebody who is a leader, somebody who is in charge, because we're speaking about at the top of the house. A leader can really focus his energy when he has a stable foundation. Like how you're going to take responsibility and lead not just yourself, like your family or people you're, if it's also connected to like working career, that somebody who likes to be the leader, how are you going to be one if you don't feel
yeah,
supported?
because their fourth house is then Libra, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Like their
Mm.
foundation, and they need that like safe haven of like that mirror.
Yeah, almost like imagine like at home I have my peace, I have my, safe haven. So now I can go out in the world and just, cut with a sword and go on a battlefield because I have something that I need to protect. Yeah, that's
I would
right.
say I would say also having satisfaction coexist with your ambition, because there could be with Aries here an impulsivity and impatience around the next achievement, the next goalpost in their public facing role, the next position, and it can give you a lot of tenacity to be a leader and to climb in those public spheres and gain and earn respect. But then also just having and feeling gratitude for where you stand at the moment.
Yeah, being patient with climbing up the social ladder because sometimes imagine you're 20, you want to be the CEO of a company. Well, it might take some time. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it might take some time. So let's say you work in a corporation, you need to kind of move your way up the ladder. So let's say if you get to that CEO position at 50, then you just need to be, like you said, Molly, yeah, patient with the process. That yes, you are meant for to be in a leadership position, but sometimes you need, the time to learn. You need
Experience,
the experience. Yeah, so it's something that,
respect.
yeah,
These could be the people that just want to like put themselves in the authority role. Yeah, and exactly. If you're super young,
yeah,
it may take time for that to like build. 11th house?
yeah. 11th house is about our individuality. I'd say, like a lot of people that I meet here, something I hear a lot is that it's hard for them to have a circle of friends, or they often get in conflict with their friends. And I always tell them, because here it's not about like you being, mm, usually like a lot of times you see like groups of people or circle of friends kind of doing the same thing,
Mm.
or having like a shared interest. But when we have Aries here, it's somebody who leads a group of people into a new direction. So, not trying to just follow what the group does, but initiate a group in a new, um, in a, again, it could be a new activity. It could be just doing something differently. So this is going to help not create those conflicts, but kind of assert yourself as somebody who kind of steers the group, um, into trying something differently. And if they don't want to, it's okay. Then you can still continue to follow your urges and your desires and what you want to experience. Then you're going to find a different group of people who are going to follow you. But it's really about really learning to be patient, that your individuality is of somebody who is uh, a go-getter, somebody who is a starter, not somebody who just follows a crowd. And yeah, what do you think about 12th house?
I would say bringing presence to surrender. I feel it with Aries here. There could be the impulsivity to want to escape or dissolve or check out, right? Because it's definitely the 12th house is kind of where we check out. It can be where we also surrender to a higher power. But with Aries here, it's kind of like an uncomfortable place for Aries, because Aries is like about asserting one's will, and the 12th house is really about letting go. So um, consciously like witnessing yourself rather than just like withdrawing or seeking out ways to kind of check out, you know,
Mm-hmm.
resting in a more conscious way, tapping into like spiritual practices. I think could be really helpful, like exploring ways to connect with the immaterial, let the divine act and move through your stillness rather than feeling like you have to, expedite that process. I mean, just an example, it could be someone that's like constantly seeking out like these intense psychedelic, trying to connect with the divine and trying to access that, and kind of rushing that process rather than just maybe like sitting with themselves and breathing. They might like, okay, I got to go figure out the meaning of this, and I need to go take this kind of intense medicine and kind of look under all these stones, and it might just be simpler. It might just be about witnessing yourself in that process of connecting to the divine, of retreating from the world instead of like a hasty impulsive compulsion kind of.
Yeah, definitely. This somebody can be a great spiritual leader, artist, but it takes time to even build that craft, um, and inspire others to to be empowered, and taking charge of their own life and their own direction. Um, so definitely being patient with seeing that empowerment play out in life. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
thank you for going through all that and sitting with us through that. And I would
Yeah.
say collectively, we have Mars with Mercury right now, astrologically. So if you're feeling like a heated element to wanting to speak your mind and get things off your chest or hash out things that have been bothering you, I mean, it's definitely a time for that. But remember maybe to just breathe and sit with what you're feeling and observe what you're feeling and tune into it before taking that action with that expression or with the person you're needing to communicate to can be helpful.
I mean, if you want to share your story of what you're experiencing and want to join us in our next life,
Mm,
you can definitely reach out to us. And if you need more help of going through the changes, yes, like Molly said, right now it can be a very intense period of changes in Scorpio season and all the transits for everyone. You can reach out to either Molly and I on Astromegistus.com or any of the other wonderful astrologers who are featured. Just read again, everybody carries their own blend of expertise, knowledge, energy, and I'm sure you're going to connect with the person for you. So you can go to the website, astromegistus.com, check out the rest of the Cafe C episodes this week. It's very exciting. And we are going to see you again next Monday. Is that the 10th, Molly? Yes,
yes.
the 10th. I couldn't find the file in front of me. Let me see. What's the name next month?
Wow. Punchy. Oh, we
Do
got a question. Were we wearing all red because the moon is in Aries? Yes.
yes.
The red planet is this because that planet being the red planet, or is it related to blood? Oh, well, both.
Not, not exactly. Has a lot more esoteric. I mean, you can, if you choose to, you can connect it to blood. Uh, mm, this for me is connected to more esoteric knowledge. I don't know if some of you have heard of Peter Danuf. Uh, he's somebody who is connected to the White Brotherhood. There is some information online, so he speaks also a lot about how the colors are connected to different days of the week. But definitely, if we look at Martian energy and going back to like Greek mythology and the god of war Ares, then we can see the connections with the color red. Yeah.
It's also the root chakra, so it's like our flight or fight, that survival instinct and the urgency. That's why a lot of advertisements and branding use the color red because it evokes this feeling of like, I need to go get it, like Target, right? Great example. Everyone goes in there and they go in for one thing and then they end up just adding compulsively all this stuff to their shopping cart because they're just like, well, I got it. I need it, you know? So food, a lot of like food grocer stores use red. I think Safeway, the logo's red because it's that, yeah, that root of like survival. And so, yeah, usually when we're triggered or impatient, it's because it's like, this is so important to our survival. And so wherever we have Aries in our chart, that's going to be like a good need to look at. Just look at it from like a need perspective of like, oh, this is like a core need I have. And how can I, um, fulfill this in myself so it's not like a testy area for me or a point of contention or a trigger point.
Yeah. And Let me see what I'm still trying to figure out. Let me see.
Giving the secrets to our next episode. Hello? I can't hear you all of a sudden. I don't hear you. I don't know what happened to your mic, but I can't hear you anymore. Oh, she's muted. So if you have questions, if you want us to kind of cover a topic, we'd be happy to. Let's see what teasing our next week's episode. So next week on the 10th, we will be going over emotional foreplay. In emotional transformation lies the spark to desire. So connecting with the themes of Cancer. All right. Thank you for tuning in. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. We'll see you next Monday with Moonlit Muses. Have a beautiful week.